You're listening to the Sonic Ninjas podcast. Follow us on Instagram at the Sonic Ninjas and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Sonic Ninjas.
All right. Facebook Live. What's going on, Bradley Dean? How you doing?
What's going on there, Eddie? How's everybody doing out there in Facebook land? It's been a long time.
Dude, it's been a long time, too long, I would say.
I would say so. July of 2020 was the last time you saw our faces on Facebook Live.
Well, it does take a long time to create season 2 of any kind of series, right?
The highly anticipated, long-awaited return of.
Yeah. And as usual, how nerve-wracking all this stuff could be, just getting it all sorted out. You showing up 1 minute and a half before and saying, "What's up?" Although today you were pretty early, I got to say.
I was early today.
You were early. Were able to check things.
More nerve-wracking than about to mix a show in front of 15,000 people.
Yeah, why is that? I know I said it before in our other streams, but why is that? That is strange. Like, leading up to this, my heart was about to pop out, dude.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I don't know why.
I think it's just the fear of the unknown.
Yeah. Because this is not our little room. We just, it's not what we do.
Right. Because when we do the show, the intro rolls, the band starts, and then it's like, okay.
Exactly. Then we're all calm,
Yep. Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, it's been a crazy ride this whole time that we've been home and everybody's been home and not doing what we love doing most. And a lot of the things that people ask us a lot, during this time is like, how was it, or how is it going back to doing what we do? Yeah, we've been doing studio stuff during the pandemic, but after, for me, at least 20 years of traveling straight, 250 days at least a year, and then all of a sudden everything stops, and our life changed, and now we're kind of heading back into it. How do you feel it's affected you in this case, getting back to work? And
I think, well, like you say, there was this transitional period that, okay, I'm home and I've been home. The routine is one way at home and it's another way on the road. And so there was a certain adjustment just to get acclimated to life on the road again, being on the bus, waking up in a parking lot, waiting for everything to be set up and do line check and then the show. But up until we got into that touring mode, a lot of what I thought about was, how are things going to sound again when I listen to the show, or when I get in front of the big PA, like, because too much time has passed and you have no point of reference as to what it was like, because it wasn't like it was last week or even last month. It was, last year.
Yeah.
So you get in front of that big PA, is it like all of a sudden it's going to be like, oh my God, I was mixing this loud, or
longer than last year, by the way, longer.
Yeah. So it was those kind of things that I thought about a lot, and I changed consoles and I wanted to change my approach to my workflow. And did I make the right decision? There was a lot of like questioning things that were just second nature before, because we were on a roll. And we just rolled from show to show, I'm doing it this way and this is how it is. And you had time to think about it. And once you start thinking about things, that's when, not necessarily is it that you doubt yourself or you doubt your ability, but you question things and you have more time to think about it.
Yeah. And like I said, we've been indoors this whole time, working in studio in a controlled environment, listening to things really clean. And all of a sudden we get this feeling of like, how is it going to be when we get back? And then when you get back and you hear things completely different now, right?
Completely different. Yeah. It was really
the biggest thing for you?
The biggest thing, I guess, was
besides stage left guitar, nylon guitar.
I never liked that stage left nylon guitar.
I know. We worked on it.
I learned to love it though in the end, but
I know.
I don't know. Maybe it was just turning the PA up. Maybe it was just playing Pink Floyd through the big sound system in the arena and taking a moment to sit and listen to that and go, oh, okay. So it's really not any different than it was. It's just, I'm different now.
Yeah.
And the time has passed, but the enjoyment and the pleasure that you got out of it, it was all right back there. Like, it was like the cliche, like it's just like riding a bike.
Yeah,
Just
but it's true. Just different. It's a different, the feeling, I think it was a little different for me. I definitely, I was expecting to just walk in and just, everything, I already have my file. We're going to start this tour. We'll just make some adjustments. And it wasn't quite like that for me. A lot of things, because we're always so busy, and a lot of times we don't have time to make drastic changes to our approach or the way we perceive things. For me, it was when I listened to some of the mixes that I was having or providing to the band members or my artists or whatever, it was like, wow, what was I thinking on this thing? Maybe this could be a little cleaner here. It was kind of rolling in a comfortable environment, in a comfortable place, being like, oh, this is working. It sounds good. And no one's complaining. I think it sounds good. But after not hearing it for a year and a half, all of a sudden you get kicked in the nuts and go, oh, this could be way better. I can clean this up. I don't really need to have this plugin, or I'm going to swap this plugin for this one, or just remove things.
Mm-hmm.
And more of a simplistic approach, which I always, every time I talk about simplifying my workflow, I always think of Jim Yakabuski, because he's a good friend of mine. He mixes front of house with Gwen, and that's his philosophy of keeping things a little simpler. Where I'm the opposite of that. Not that I complicate things, but I like to have all my bells and whistles. But it always reminds me of, like, what? Sometimes taking stuff away makes it better, not adding it.
Yeah,
it definitely has a different approach. I'm sure for you it was the same, right? When you showed up and started tweaking things again.
Yeah, it was exactly the same, because like you say, we spent that whole time in the studio, and my approach in the studio, I started looking at things like, why am I using, 10 different channel strips when I would never mix a show? Like when you get on a real console, like an analog console, to mix a show, it's all the same channel strip.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden I started thinking, well, I'm just going to put this same exact channel strip on all 24 inputs. So then when I went back to mixing, I started thinking about that. Like, okay, I want to mix on a console with that same approach. And also, after not hearing the show, like you say, for so long, and you start listening to things, you listen to it from a completely different perspective. It's not like you just heard the show. Now you're listening to things and you're like, oh, okay, well, do I really need this to do that? What if I turn this off? Or, what if I try this? Maybe I don't need any of this.
Yeah.
And
it
so
definitely
it was
opens
really,
our eyes to a whole other thing, right? It opens our mind to.
Yeah, it was interesting to come back to the same exact thing, but from a different outlook and a different perspective.
Now you switch consoles. So what console you're on now? So
I'm
everybody
on
can know.
The Yamaha Ravage PM10.
And I know you love it because I've been next to you.
Well, again, it was one of those things where for so many years I had one way of mixing. And given all this time off, I was able to go down to Nashville and, try out the console a couple different times. And it gave me time. I thought about things a lot more. And I'm like, you know what? I want to try a whole different approach, because here I am talking about this approach in my class. Like, hey, you should be able to mix a show in a Mackie. And here I am with all this, all these plugins and all this outboard gear. And I'm like, maybe I just want to simplify my approach, get back to the way I used to do things. And so I started the tour, one way. I still had, the real-time racks, and I was using some plugins there and the universal audio stuff, along with the stuff inside the Yamaha desk. But my intention the whole time was I'm going to end up just on the desk because I know that I can do it that way.
Yeah.
And that's what I accomplished throughout the tour. And there were times when I would think, you know, I wonder if this sounds like it sounded when I was doing it another way. And I'm like, well, who cares? It sounds great to me now. And I'm doing something completely different. And
that's an interesting point. It's an interesting point. Sorry to cut you off, but it's an interesting point because we always fear if we're changing certain pieces of gear, is it going to change everything for us? It's going to sound different. And you and I talk about this. I can grab any console and give it to you, or I can grab any console for myself, and at the end of the day, it's going to sound like I'm mixing. It's going to sound like you're mixing it, right? Because you have a certain way, you have a certain tone, a certain, I don't know, we just have different ways of doing things, and that's very unique to each mixer. So I almost like the gear is very important to us to get us there maybe quicker or in a different way with different colors. But at the end of the day, every time I heard your mix, when I would walk outside and listen to your mix, it sounds like a Brad Divens mix to me. And it's awesome, you know? So that's something I wanted to point out because it's definitely not the gear, but the gear definitely helps us get there in a different way, right?
Yeah. Well, I think you have a certain, like you say, you have that certain style and a way of mixing, but you have this picture in your mind of what you want it to sound like. And regardless of what you use, you're always going to try to get that picture painted on the, for the show. And it was a challenge, actually. I challenged myself to step out of my comfort zone to what I knew just worked for the last, 12 years or whatever, to try something new. And it just made it fresh and exciting again. And like you say, the outcome, it sounded like,
great.
My mix, because you're going to get there. It's just a matter of turning the knob until you hear what you want to hear.
And you never actually had a chance to, if I remember correctly, you weren't able to do A and B. It's not like you had both consoles with running your show and you go, you know what? We probably wouldn't have been able to do that if there was no pandemic or whatever. But at the time, you just did the switch. You go, oh, we're going on tour now. The shows that were postponed from last year, we're going to do it now. Okay, good. I'm switching, right? You did the switch.
Yeah.
And you went straight to rehearsals with a new console, which you had to kind of learn, even though you had a few days on it before. But you had to program everything from zero.
Yeah.
How was that for you? Did you was it a steep learning curve, or because obviously they're different platforms? So you were on Navidus XL before.
Yep. I mean, yeah, the learning curve was a bit challenging because, the Yamaha operates different than the Avid, and the programming and the that sort of thing is different. So it was just, reprogramming my brain into thinking a little differently about how I would run the snapshots and how things would set up on the Yamaha versus the Avid. But, it was exciting because it was just different. Yeah. I didn't have that, one way. I couldn't rely on this certain thing or these certain set of gear that I always used. So you didn't fall into that habit of doing the same thing because it's like, that's what I know. I'm like, okay, well, let's try this and see what this does. Well, that sounds good. Okay, let's move on from there. Because I had show files from, whatever the last tour was, but that was a couple years prior to that. That was all different backline, different, instruments.
Different musicians.
Different mic pre's. The way it was recorded was different. Yeah. So there was a lot of time just letting the band rehearse and recording stuff and then playing back and then just sitting and tweaking and learning and listening. It brought me back to listening to the inputs again. Yeah. From a more naked approach of straight through the mic pre before doing anything else.
You started from zero. Like you didn't have a template. You didn't have anything, right?
Yeah. And
no presets, nothing.
And it was, I'm like, This is what I used to do. I used to go from one, gig one night on a Midas H3000 to the next night I'm on a Soundcraft VI6 to the next show is on whatever. And I just dialed it in and we had a show.
Yeah.
so
We used to do that a lot, right? But the
Yeah.
one thing that digital consoles changed for us doing that is I remember dialing, Midas consoles or even like 4Ks or it's like you're able to dial things up quickly because you have all the channel strips in front of you as well, where digital consoles, you can kind of go quick once you're used to that platform, but you kind of become sometimes accustomed to having to use the mouse or having to use the trackball, whatever, or certain thing, or recalling presets to expedite your process. I'm big on presets. I always like using presets and templates, but I get it. Being able to start from zero, not only was it exciting because you're able to hear things now the raw again and run them through a new console and make new decisions that at the end it's going to still sound like Bradley Dean Divins mix, but it was all starting again organically, right? And I remember how hard you work on that. I mean, you used to stay later than everybody else to try to tweak things, or go in earlier than everybody else and work on that. I didn't make a switch, but I definitely made a conscious decision of changing certain things, changing my approach in mixing, really reevaluating my gain structure, because things change, and you get so used to something, and you're on a roll, you don't really have time to tweak certain things or make any drastic changes, because if you make one change when you're constantly performing, musicians or your artists will notice, oh, did you change something? I was like, yeah. Having this gap of time kind of allowed me to make some changes for the better without jeopardizing the flow of the show. I was able to adjust things, remove things, maybe lower the DSP usage on the console because I remove a bunch of stuff. So yeah, it's definitely nice to be able to start fresh,
Yeah, because it would be easy just to say, okay, I'm just going to use what I used last time.
Yeah.
Because okay, I liked it 2 years ago. It'll be fine now.
Yeah.
But where's the challenge?
I didn't like it when I heard it.
Well, where's the challenge in that?
Yeah.
I don't feel the same I didn't feel the same when we came back to the gig as I did that last show in 2019.
Yeah.
Or whenever it was, 2020.
Was it Saudi Arabia? It was like
It was 2020, Saudi Arabia. But I didn't feel the same. Yeah. Everything was different, including the scar on my chest. So,
yeah, I know.
Different approach. PA was different as well.
For those who don't know, Bradley Dean is a new man. He's like 30 years younger now.
Well, at least my arteries going through my chest are.
Yeah, man. But I get it. It's that, and at the end of the day, you and I also talk about this a lot when we're together or whatever, where mixing is for us, it's not only technical stuff. We use technical stuff when needed, but it's really an emotion thing. We come from a musical background, musicians or whatever. So it's mixing is it's like an instrument for us. So doing something different, something organic, or literally listening again and reestablishing what our approach is going to be today versus what it was 2 years or for the last 8 years, that changes things, because now our interpretation of the music is different after not working on it for 2 years or a year and a half. And the musicians and our artists feel that too. They go, oh, wow, things sound good. And it's not based on the recollection.
No, because there is none.
There is none. It's based on something that we did to reinterpret their music. It's still my mix, and it's still your mix, or it's still our approach in this case. Because as monitor engineers, we don't get to hear our mix, but you know what I mean? Like, it's still my approach in their mix, but with the added value of, like, we listen to this fresh now. We have reestablished what my or our interpretation is of the music for them, or for the audience in this case.
Yep. And another thing that changed for me during the whole pandemic was I started playing again a lot. So when I came back to mixing, all of a sudden the whole musician energy and the fire of being a musician was in with my mixing. And I felt like I got just a little more, I don't know if this is the right phrase to use, but I felt like I almost put a little more rock in the mix than I did before because I had been playing. So the musicianship in me came out in the mix a little more. Like maybe I listened to things a little way more critical than I did before. Cause now I'm not coming back as just a mixer. I'm coming back as I just spent, 6 months playing bass on this project or playing guitar on this. So now I'm starting to think more of a musician, which I think lends something to a mixer if you're a musician before you're a mixer. So
absolutely,
it was just all different.
Yeah, everything about it coming back was different, but in a good way, I think, in a positive way,
Except for prison style showers. There's never anything positive about that.
The arena's all nice with prison style showers,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's always exciting, isn't it?
It is.
I know you took a shot of that. Didn't you post something from the shower?
I did. Well, I'm always the first one up.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm not the first one in the building, but I'm the first one that's in the building wandering around looking for a shower.
Yeah.
And I'll just open the door, and if there's a shower, I'm going in. I don't care if there's 6 shower heads or 1. I'm getting clean, and I'm going to leave the building. And I'll come back later when catering's ready.
Exactly.
But, yeah, so, you got to do what you got to do sometimes.
It's always see you in catering. Where's Brad catering? Yeah. People think that's where they will find me, but that's where they will find you.
Well,
let's go see. Let me go take a quick look, see who's with us, man. Say hi to everybody and thank you for watching this. Jerry, we got Luis, we got Dario Peñalosa, man. For those who haven't read his book, it's pretty awesome. Check out Dario's book. Cesar, what's going on? Dixie.
My mom's watching.
Yeah, dude. We got Mark, Jimmy, Andy. Andy, I think is also a fan of your music, of your band, I think.
Yeah.
If I remember, Andy Fernandez. There's Raul. Yeehaw. Have a good show, everybody.
Yep. Yeah, Jimmy's the one I spent time playing some music with over the pandemic as well.
Oh, yeah? Cool.
Yep.
Right on, man. Well, we thank everybody for watching, too, and it's pretty cool that people are joining us. If you guys have any questions or anything you want to hear us talk about, please go ahead and put it on the message board, and we'll try to answer it as best as possible.
We had a new PA out too as well.
What was
this time around? Was the JBL VTX A12, which was
pretty cool.
It was pretty. It was really nice. It was like a big stereo in the sky. It's like a pair of nice sounding near field monitors every night.
Like mixing in a studio, but with thousands of people.
Yep. And
the reviews were great.
That made things a little bit different as well. It was a little quieter for you behind the PA.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny how that works because we get used to some PAs not doing that, not being so clean. And I kind of mix my in-ears based on getting that blowback from the PA. And I use the low end of the PA, which is sometimes on sound checks or rehearsals more than anything. I'm like, did you turn the PA off, dude? Come on, turn it back on for me. I need it. Because it's otherwise it starts sounding a little thinner for everybody, right? But yeah, I mean, once I knew that this is what we're getting, that it was super clean, it allowed me to bring in some of that low or low mid back a little bit more in everybody's mixes, because I knew it was going to be way cleaner for them on stage always,
Yep.
It's just a small adjustment.
Yeah, and it was a very pristine box. So again, that was something new as well. So I'm hearing things out of the PA differently than I had heard before.
Yeah.
The precision and the clarity and the imaging and all of it was just so hi-fi.
Yeah. And
You
that's
know?
something that someone was asking. I remember on Instagram maybe a week ago, someone posted asking me about, the approach or perspective of mixing front of house and monitors. And I think this thing that we're talking about right now kind of applies to how we work it together, where, dealing with how the PA blows back for, monitors. How does it affect my side? How do I deal with that? Do we talk about it? Are you running subs cardioid or anything that might affect all of us, right? We always have this thing where we discuss it. We don't just do it, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Because
and that makes a difference.
it's not I'm mixing the show and you're mixing the monitors and the band's playing. It's like we're all putting on a show together.
Yeah.
So we have to work together as
Absolutely.
opposed to like I could just say, no, I'm not turning the PA back on because I'm good out here. You do your thing or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, we have to work together because in the
Absolutely.
end, it's what works for the benefit of the show and then for the benefit of the audience.
Yeah, or when we walk when I test a mic on the runway,
Exactly.
we make decisions together of like, or at least I can bring it up, and you can make those decisions with, in this case, Brandon, who was your system engineer, and decide, okay, the PA is doing this on the runway. What can we do about it? And then you can make those decisions. It's not just a volume thing. Sometimes it's an EQ thing or certain boxes or whatever to clean up the runway, right? So all those things are important that we, from our perspective, monitors or front of house, we kind of work it together. If I had side fields or tons of wedges all over the stage and I'm like blasting volume, or we had amps, we will have to work with you. You would probably be telling us, hey, side fields are too loud, or the drum sub or whatever. That's not the case for us, but it's just a way of working that is always important to keep those two departments working together in order to make the whole show a success, right?
Exactly. Because the audience is there to have a great time. And I like to have a great time. So why am I going to fight with you or with whatever? It's like whatever it takes to make the show the best it can be.
Yeah. You don't want to fight with me. You don't want to fight with me. I can tell you that. I'm bigger than you. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I'll
see you in catering.
I'll see you in catering. Yeah. I'll see you after school.
Yep.
If I'm not there, start without me. So I want to go back to you starting with a new console, right? And I think one of the things that always comes up for many people doing what we do is, how do you deal with the differences between you using before plugins all over the place, perhaps, or making the decision of just using the stuff in the box? And I know you touched up a little bit on that, but how was the actual transition, or what made you decide to just use onboard stuff? Because you still were able to use plugins with the Yamaha anyways.
Yeah.
But you kind of stuck with it with
yeah, I did. I mean,
on board, right?
Yeah. Well, my initial thought was, I'm switching consoles. I want a simpler approach. I don't want to have a bunch of screens around me to look at. I just want to mix on a desk and enjoy the show, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I started with my real-time racks, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to process my groups and my mix bus with what I know and love. And I'm going to work with the desk, because the minute I heard an input come back through the preamp, I'm like, wow, this sounds really good. I didn't think, there's sometimes when you hear a sound and you think, there's certain things that come to mind, like I want to use this or that to work on that sound. That wasn't my thought initially. My initial thought was, wow, that sounds so good coming through the preamp. Let's just push the fader up and see how it sounds. Yep. And then I just went to the onboard EQ, which Yamaha gives you a choice of 4 different types of EQ. And there's Rupert Deef plugin processing on there, along with some other plugins that you know and love, and that you're use in the studio. And so my approach was, I'm going to dial the desk in. There's my groups. I know what they're doing. And I took that approach. And it just, like I say, it made me listen more. It made me use less. All of a sudden I'm like, I don't really need to process this input this way. What if I just do this?
Well, most of your inputs are on the console. Basically, all the inputs are you using
all the inputs.
console.
Actually, I take that back. Enrique's vocal input was outboard.
Okay.
It was still in Universal Land. But then by the halfway through the tour, I started gravitating towards, okay, let me listen to the mix bus in the desk and let's try I think it was the Rupert Neve master bus processor. Put that in, let's see what that does. And then compare it to what I was doing. And I'm like, wow, okay, that doesn't sound like this, but it sounds really good.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the same,
but good, yeah.
Different, but good. And I'm like, and I would just be like, okay, tonight, and this is in the afternoon, we didn't have much time to rehearse or anything.
No.
We're lucky if, we got half a song and play some virtual sound check. And I'd be like, you know what, tonight I'm going to try this.
Yeah.
And then I would try it. And I'm like, okay. And then I would just start changing things out. Then I would sit there in the afternoon and compare my drum group and my parallel drum group to what I was doing in Universal Audio Land and go back and forth. And I'm like, but this sounds good. I'm just going to do this tonight. Let's do this. And then it ended up, by the end of the tour, I'm all in the console, which was my initial plan anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't know, for me, it was a little different experience because I'm not mixing with a mouse. There was no mouse anywhere, except for arming the record rig or whatever I had to do over there. But I just mixed hands on the faders all the time. I never had to go to a mouse to look at anything. It's just, and I just found myself being like, there's lots of things we can use to craft the mix. I just chose to use what was in front of me.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people always ask. What makes you make that decision? A lot of times is the fact that whether the console handles it or if the console has the colors that you're looking for. I personally use plugins and processing. I use the UAD stuff as well, the Universal Audio processing stuff, mostly on my in-ear mixes. Mostly because I'm looking for a certain color, right? Because if the console is just too clean and you're trying to get a particular color on something, that's when I'm using it. It's not like, but it's easy to get caught up on that and you just start putting stuff everywhere,
right?
Because it's available to us.
Because you can.
Can we mix a show without them? Of course, but is it going to have those colors that we're looking for, or the colors that the artists are used to hearing, or the musicians? All these guys are session players, so they know what they want to hear also and how they can get it to sound a certain way. So it's more about that for me, to deliver that sound that they're looking for. But also, snapshots. I think you were mentioning something like that on the console too. That's very critical in how that workflow gets approached when I'm mixing. I couldn't get used to, because I tried the Yamaha. For me, the snapshot portion is a little clunky, I guess. But sonically, that console is incredible. I mean, the Yamaha console is great. But the snapshot portion of it, for me, works a little bit more, I don't know, maybe for my brain, it's a little more friendly for my brain to be able to work better for me. But that's a pretty cool thing. You ended up, after the tour, at the end of the tour, you ended up all in the console, right? All internal.
All in the console. And there were times during rehearsal before I had the console programmed, and I said this to you, I'm like, I just mixed the whole rehearsal without any snapshots. I'm just sitting here moving faders, and because all my snapshots ever do anyway is change reverb parameters or delay times. Yeah. That's it. That's, and maybe there's some, channels being muted and unmuted. It's my snapshots are not complicated. And that was kind of fun. I realized, the snapshots are cool and I use them to my benefit. But if I had to, I could just tap the delay, the delay in and just mix. And it's so easy. We did it all the time. And it's so easy to be a creature of habit.
Yeah.
But
Very.
again, so much time had passed. I'm like, I don't want to do it that way anymore. I want to try something new. And also the benefit of just staying in the console because of the way we travel and we don't ever carry any consoles.
That's right.
I can just show up and load my file and I'm mixing the show on the console without the need for a whole lot of outboard gear.
Yeah. I think we have a question here from Darío Peñalosa. How do you compensate the crowd factor? I'm guessing he's, are you talking about front of house? I mean, how do you deal with the crowd for yourself at front of house? Do you never try to compete with them, right? You just.
No, I never try to compete with the crowd because if I'm mixing between 98 and 101 A-weighted, the crowd's at least minimum 105, 6, 7, up to 110.
Oh, yeah.
Why would I ever want to try to mix over top of that? That's just painful. The crowd is painful when they're that loud. Can you imagine adding the show level to that as well? Yeah. I've never, ever tried to compete with the crowd.
And Enrique's fans are loud, dude.
They're loud, and I mean, the one thing that I do is when they come back to the C stage, when the Enrique and the band come back for the intimate acoustic performance, and now the crowd's looking at them and I'm between the crowd and Enrique and they're just screaming. I'm like, okay, there's no way I'm turning the acoustic performance up louder than what, the loudest portion of the show was just happening. I'm turning it down a little bit.
That makes the crowd also kind of tame themselves a little bit to kind of listen, right? They kind of
exactly. And I never go too far to where it's like, oh, you can't really hear anything. It's like, it's an acoustic performance now. Why would I ever want to mix that at 101 or 102 just to compete with the audience out there? It's intimate. So you have to work with the crowd.
Yeah.
You can't beat the crowd and you can't beat the room. You have to work with the elements that are around you.
Yeah. And luckily for me, obviously everybody being on in-ears, and I keep my audience micing very simple. It's just 2 mics at the audience, mostly because obviously Enrique spends a lot of time in the audience. So it gets picked up by his mic very, right away as soon as he's out there. But I try to make sure I keep those in-ears clean. I bring in the audience mics every now and then on endings of songs. When he's in the middle of the audience singing a song and like whispering very softly, I'm writing that mic literally per syllables. If he does a syllable and he leaves it open for an audience to sing, I just immediately bring it down. Like I'm literally just automating in a way because I already know kind of when he does it.
Yep.
Because otherwise they'll be so loud in his ear too. And everybody else is, of course, listening in the band. So I try to write it so it kind of doesn't hurt anybody, but you can still feel the audience. The audience is part of the show in a way. They're participants of the whole thing. So
for me, it's a big part of the show for me.
Yeah. I mean, that was one thing. When we started, that first time we heard the roar of the people when the lights go out, that feeling was definitely something that we miss, I'm sure,
Oh yeah.
But and that's something that I want to always have in everybody's ears and because so I want them to feel that too, because it's important. They feed off of that. So yeah, I mean, I keep it clean where I don't leave the audience mics or the crowd mics on the whole time, but I definitely use them in certain moments of the show so they can hear the sing-alongs and stuff,
Yep, exactly. The show would be nothing without the audience.
That's true. He's saying more specifically, I guess, how do you compensate the crowd factor from front of house on sound check? Like, how do you do anything different or drastically different, I guess, between when you sound check with an empty arena is, I guess, what I'm understanding here, versus when the crowd is there?
Well, from years of doing it, you know what's going to happen between sound check in an empty room and sound check with an audience.
Yeah.
It doesn't usually ever get worse when the room warms up and fills up with people. You know, it's 99.9% it's always better.
Yeah.
So the things that I compensate for, I guess, I'm just listening to the inputs, number one, and make sure that the mix is there and that everything sounds good, that the PA sounds good in the room. You know, maybe there's some glass or some reflective surfaces that I'm dealing with at front of house right now that are probably going to go away when the room fills in. So I'm never going to over EQ the PA for an empty room, because most times you're going to end up trying to put it back in. And it's a lot easier to take something out when the show starts than it is to try and put something back in. That, say you've taken out a bunch of, 3 to 6K because it's really bright. You just know
it's pointing right at an empty room. You got the floor.
And you've got exactly. You got the floor, which you're getting reflections off the floor.
Yeah.
That's going to be gone. Off any of the hard plastic seating, that's going to go away. Lots of those troublesome areas are generally always going to go away. The ceiling's probably not going to change, though. There's not a whole lot of changing that when the room fills in. But temperature plays a big part as well. When the room warms up,
those places cold sometimes. They keep them so cold. It doesn't help.
Sometimes you're standing on ice.
Yeah.
But you learn what to compensate for, which generally you don't try to, it doesn't need to sound perfect during sound check. You just need to know what's happening in the room.
Yeah.
Because certain things are going to change.
Yeah. We have to stay ahead of that. We have to stay ahead of the game. And that goes for front of house and monitors. A lot of people sometimes they'll ask you, hey, can you make this change? And I'm like, well, I'll gladly make it. But the truth is, if I make this change during the show, you're going to be like, oh, can you put it back? And I know that. And it's happened. And once I prove it to whoever asked for it, they go, you were right. So now they don't even ask for that change because they know they're going to need it after. I said, the sounds that you're hearing now are the show sounds, but I'll do it. If you want me to change it and store it, I'll change it and store it for the sound check. But I know you're going to need it later. And just like I said,
every time,
put it back. It's like, yeah, it happens. But that's where we have to stay ahead of them. Like, and we don't do it in a way to make them feel bad. It's more like you give them the option and you explain to them what's going to happen after. And if they feel like they still want the change, you do it anyways. And later, either they realize they needed it after all, or they were happy with the change and everybody happy. And no big deal.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, the mix it's what they're asking for anyway. It doesn't matter what you think it should sound like. It's what they want.
For me, in my scenario, yes.
So
I'm not mixing for myself. This is a position of service.
That's
I'm mixing for them, no matter what.
And sometimes they need to know or need to hear the difference. Well, I thought I was going to need that, but Eddie was right. So, it's a learning.
Time where to go. Yeah.
They learn.
It's a learning. Yeah.
It's learning for them.
We both do.
Exactly.
Because I learn what they like, and I get to understand what they need. But there's times where it's not a volume thing. They go, I need more click. And obviously things start getting crowded in their mix, maybe right when they're singing something, a background vocal or a lead vocal, they're singing, but the click is also in the middle. It starts getting crowded or they lose the click. Then instead of turning it up and just making things louder, I just grab it and pan it a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking a little bit. All of a sudden the click stands out. Yep. And they go, oh, that's perfect. How much did you turn it up? I said, I didn't. What do you mean? I hear it clearly now. I was like, I just panned it a little bit.
Yep.
Which is funny because my friend Cesar, who's monitor engineer for Ricky Martin, he came in with a Klang system, which I'm so excited about trying soon. I mean, I tried it, but not on the show. Klang was kind enough to send me a unit so I can run my show through it and play with it. And it was pretty cool, pretty amazing, but I haven't used it on the show yet. but I got to learn a little bit about how Scissor was using it with Ricky Martin, and it's pretty unbelievable. This whole binaural thing, it's pretty amazing, you know. And that's one thing that is, see, I can only go left, right, maybe a little bit of depth, you know, with my mixes, but with this Klang thing, you can literally put things anywhere. And it's a very interesting approach, especially for in-ears. You know, volume could come down now. If you do it right, you can actually turn the volume down on people's in-ears because now things are so separated.
Yep.
That, you know, it's something that I want to try soon, real soon. And watching him do it successfully definitely piqued my curiosity even more. And I know Tater uses it, and many other engineers are using it. So I'm definitely into that for the next one. Whenever our next batch of shows might be, I think I might want to include that in the process. I think it'll be interesting. You know?
Yeah, because the technology's there. Why not embrace it and use it?
Yeah. And I've been doing stuff here. I've been actually considering turning my studio into an Atmos studio. We talked about that. And that's in motion slowly. But I've been messing around with mixing in Atmos, but binaural, obviously, not the full Atmos, but just to learn the process, because it's definitely a whole different animal. It's pretty cool. I mean, I'm grabbing mixes that I already done, and they're already in stems, and I'm kind of placing them in different, and automating certain pannings and things, and playing with the reverbs, and it's pretty cool. It's a whole other ball game for mixing, I gotta say.
I know. I'd love to mix a show in an arena in immersive or Atmos style with speakers everywhere, not just spread out in front and a few in the back, but like above and side. Like,
oh, dude,
just totally
completely immersive. Yeah,
completely immerse the audience in the audio in the show.
That'd be awesome.
It would be awesome.
I remember. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, tell me, please.
I was going to say it'll be like The Wall, only different. It'll be Enrique instead of Pink Floyd, you know.
Yeah, just a small difference. But I remember, what was it, 1989 maybe, or 90? I was on a trip to LA from Peru, and we were on vacation, and it was I went to see Rush at the time was the Great Western Forum. And it was the Presto tour with Rush, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was Robert Scoville mixing at the time. Hopefully that's correct, and if I made a mistake, please someone correct me, but I think it was. And that was sort of a pivotal moment for me as far as deciding, because I was 14 or 15 into deciding and really committing into what I wanted to do. It was a great show, sounded amazing. But I remember clearly there was a moment on the show where one of the, I forget what song it was, this keyboard patch comes in with strings or whatever, and it came out of the back of the room, or at least it sounded from where I was, because everything was coming from here, and all of a sudden something came from behind me. And I don't know if it was maybe just a acoustical anomaly or something, but it literally sounded like it was coming from behind. And I was like, man, that was so cool. You know, even if they used it once, and it was just a set of speakers set up just for that one thing, it was a great effect. Or if he ended up doing it with just phasing or something, either way, the fact that it gets your attention to turn almost, like when you're watching a live show, I think that's kind of cool, you know? So mixing music and something like Atmos, I think it's, which I know nothing about, I'm just in the process of learning, but it's pretty cool. I mean, the thought of being able to put things in, not just here, but anywhere above you. And I like that idea. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you put yourself in the music.
Yeah.
More so.
And I think if I'm able to do it with Klang soon, like Cesar's doing and many others are doing, I think I personally think, you know, band members or artists could like it. You know, I think it's a good thing. It opens up their spectrum too of how loud they have to run things and be able to separate things the way they can hear it clearly. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what we're doing, Brad. Next
So when you
tour, immersive audio for you, PA all over around you, and I'll go Clang.
okay, if when you come mix monitors for my band, you can.
Yeah.
I'll try Clang out for you.
I heard about you though. I heard you used to kick monitors off the stage, and you were like a little bit of a
No,
diva.
I never did that.
You used to flip them around, maybe, or what did you? I know you did
Just
something.
unplug them.
You used to unplug them.
No, that was a long time ago. I was a different me.
Yeah,
I'm a new me now.
yeah. So if I mix
Yeah.
for you, you're not gonna throw stuff at me. You're
No,
not
I'd
gonna-
be nice to you.
Would you? I don't know.
Unless
I
you
don't know
didn't
about
get it
trust
right fast enough. And then
Then you'll be like, next. Like, who's the next guy?
yep,
Well, you'll have 2 or 3 people standing by. You go, okay, you, Eddie, next. No, next.
right.
Yeah, I can see that. I can
Yeah,
totally see that.
that's why I always said I will never do monitors. Because knowing my luck, I would be mixing monitors for the guy that was me when I was playing.
Oh, it's payback time.
And I wasn't that bad because I would just tell him to turn them off. Because back then I didn't know what to tell him, or I didn't
You
know how to
turn them off.
No, I didn't know how to explain what I wanted to hear because I'm just playing. I don't know any terminology for what I wanted to say was, hey, make my PA or make my voice sound like it does in the house. It's all dry coming out of this wedge at me. And if you can't fix it quick enough, I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to unplug it.
Plug it.
No, I might have been drinking when I kicked one off the stage. Who knows? That was a long time ago.
Yeah,
I've changed, Eddie.
You're a good man now. You're like a more calmer Bradley Dean.
Sure.
Sure. You can't confirm nor deny, right?
Right. We could talk about that for a minute. The attitude of coming back to the gig and the pressures and the stress and all that sort of thing coming from, waking up in the morning, having your coffee and sitting around in your PJs all day to waking up in the parking lot in the bus. And it's, it's 5:30 and doors are in an hour and we haven't checked anything.
Yeah. Well, it was, this was a massive, since you mentioned that, this particular production was gigantic. You have probably the 2 biggest Latin artists, male artists, and Latin artists on the planet. And they're full production and full everything. Everybody's got all their own stuff. And the crew, they kicked ass, but there was a lot of stuff to do.
It was giant.
It was giant. So if it was at the beginning running, for lack of a better word, behind, it wasn't because of anything that they were doing. It was just because of the amount of production. It's gigantic. It
was the logistics of the show.
The logistics of the show. They worked tirelessly, way too many hours because it was so much of it. But the end result was amazing. I mean, for us, everybody in the crew, of course, and I will be remiss to not give a shout out to all the sound image people who helped us out. Of course, everybody in that crew were amazing, and everybody, lighting and video and pyro and staging and everything was how hard they worked to put it all together. But you're right, that added pressure of timelines and schedules and try to meet those schedules. It wasn't easy for them, and that would just leave sometimes less time, for stuff to be ready by doors or whatever. It was a challenging tour, to say the least, for them, and it's hard, man. I can't imagine doing what they do in that many hours and still have the positive attitude that most of them had, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I remember you and I having several conversations before, like once the tour was getting ready. Okay, it's definitely going to happen now. And, I was saying, I want to try and remove the stress from my day. And, that's the kind of thing that, how can we do that differently? Like, how can we not get so worked up about, oh man, it's, like I say, it's 5, doors are at 6:30 and it's now 5:30 and we've heard nothing, and you just, have to. It was really hard
Yeah.
to try and, not get caught up in things that we can't control.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easier said than done, but I'm still trying to figure out how to do it. But, it's just
hard. We're not, our temperament is not like that either. Sometimes we get caught up in the moment and we're like, why, this or whatever. But the truth is, once we realize, I think you and I realized very quickly that this is not something that is wrong. This is just very large. It's a large scale thing that takes time to set up and be ready and all that stuff. It makes a big difference, but but even the travel portion of it for us, like all that stuff to get readjusted to that. It might seem like a petty thing to worry about for some people, but from doing nothing for this long and then coming back to doing a lot of stuff or a very taxing tour, then it definitely it gets to you in some ways, not in a bad way, but it gets to you. It makes you think things, makes you approach things differently, to try to stay calmer, not sweat the small stuff,
Yep. Yeah, I think that's one. I mean, that was something that I was trying to accomplish because of my heart surgery, was that I was trying to, because stress is a huge part of our gig. Whether you like to say, oh, we don't do anything all day, we just sit around and then, we mix the show and that must be great. But there's a, you think about a lot of things and you're stressed over, are we going to get the line check or sound check, or what, is the PA going to be up? And there's lots of things that you think about and have to deal with. And, I guess it's not an easy thing to take a different approach.
No, it's not. But but we did it, and everybody working that tour worked their ass off, and then by the end, every time you will see the end result, who's on it? Every time you see the end result, it was great.
Carlos's comment.
Oh, Carlos, line check, and you're like, next.
Our line checks were pretty fast. Next, good. Front of house, good. Next.
It's your favorite. Line checks are your favorite.
We love line checks.
Don't we?
We do.
Here's another question from Andy. Oh, this is a tough one though. What was your favorite show that you mixed and where?
I don't know. You go first because I got to think about that one.
Well, there's so many though, so many good ones. It's hard to pinpoint one. If I was to say one that I remember mostly because of the location, will be Wembley Stadium, because it was it was the first time I was mixing there, and so that was exciting just because of the location. But I will say that one. You weren't there though, Brad, so sorry. Who was with us then? Was Nick? I don't know. Anyway, but you were. What would be your favorite one?
Man, I'm not really. I don't know really.
There's so many, dude.
There's so many.
There's so many that when you come back, you walk by Modern World, you're like smiling. You're like, oh my God, this is great.
That's my favorite show. It could be several of them throughout a tour.
Yeah, I know.
It's just when the magic happens, when everything comes together.
Yeah.
It's like the pro golfer that hits that one drive that just goes straight and, on a par 3 hole, and he lands right in the, 10 feet from the cup. It's like, it happens, rarely. And when it does, it's just magic. And I've had those moments several times.
Yeah.
It's just everything. When the PA it sounds right and the room is right and the audience is going off, you just know.
Yeah.
I can't really say where my favorite show was.
I mean, now that I start thinking about it, because for some of you know this, I used to mix front of house a lot before I started really doing a lot of monitors for my clients. But I would say maybe if I was to say one of my favorite shows mixing, and I don't know why I didn't think of this before, is when I got to mix the Kings of Chaos. We did a tour in South Africa, right? And that was awesome because as I mentioned before, this was Guns N' Roses without Axl and Dave Kushner from Velvet Revolver. So that was both bands in a way together, plus Glenn Hughes, Ed Roland, I'm fading now. Singer for Def Leppard. I don't know why I'm fading, but yeah, I know I'm thinking like this. Anyway, it was an all-star lineup of singers with basically Guns N' Roses the band, and I was mixing front of house for that. I would say that was a pretty badass show, and that I got to mix several shows of those. I mean, the band was amazing, so it was like, yeah. So Andy, that's my answer.
Okay. Now I can think of one. There's many, but this, now that you just jarred my memory.
Yeah.
I was mixing Bob Seger in 2006, and there was one moment, I don't remember where the show was, but I think he was playing Night Moves, and I just had this vision of being like 15 years old at the fair with my girlfriend. And I'm thinking, I remember hearing Night Moves, at that moment. And now I am mixing Bob Seger. And I'm like, wow, that's so crazy. It's those kind of memories that you have.
Yeah.
About, I had the same revelation when I mixed Jane's Addiction, was that I remember the first time I heard Nothing Shocking. I'm like, I'm mixing Jane's Addiction.
Yeah.
And I go back to, my apartment in Hagerstown, laying on my floor, drinking booze and listening to Nothing Shocking. Guess there's some.
It's cool.
Those are some of my favorite moments right there.
Yeah. It's funny because at the beginning, I wasn't thinking. I was thinking just in my recent years, but I wasn't thinking from everything that I've done,
Yep.
That was a good question, Andy. Kind of threw us off guard, but I like that. Let's see. Oh, Lauren.
Well, we know what our favorite food is on the road. Pad
cold
Kapow.
pizza.
No, it's Thai food.
I'm kidding. Of course.
Yeah, cold
Everywhere
pizza
we
is
go,
favorite.
Yeah, everywhere we go we always look for Thai food.
Everywhere.
That is true. Although I know he's asking because his favorite food is tacos. Lauren is asking, yeah, but he's a taco guy. So.
Well, every now and then you say, let's go for Peruvian. I'm like, oh,
yeah, that's right.
I don't like all those onions. Let's go for Thai.
That's true. Which, yeah, they have no onions, obviously, in Thai, right? Hot shot.
No, they do. You just have to ask for.
That's true. No onions. Yeah.
Right.
Didn't we say one day we're going to put that recipe? That recipe that you gave me, which I modified slightly, I've been spreading the love with friends, and they've been making it at home too, of Pad Krapao.
Yeah, we should share that. Yep.
One of these days we should put it up on the stream, or maybe we'll just share it online somehow. But
because no matter what restaurant we go to, no matter what Thai restaurant it is, no matter where it is in the world, we get the same exact thing every time. It's that dish with a couple dishes of prick nam pla.
Yeah. Oh, we keep asking for more. And what else?
Yep.
What's the key ingredient for me? What's
the key ingredient for you? Oh, white pepper.
What is it? White pepper. You got to have white pepper.
Yeah, white pepper.
Come on, dude. You got to have that. That goes well.
Yeah. Eddie always asks the waiter or waitress, could you bring me a dish of white pepper? And sometimes he'll be like, oh, I don't know if we have that. And he'll be like, yes, you do.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do. I guarantee you have white pepper.
Yeah.
He's like, if you let me go back here, I'll
no, I don't say let me go back.
No, you say
unless it's strictly necessary. But I go.
I think you've wanted to go back there one time.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there was a couple of times. But I go, I know you do. Or if we've been to that restaurant and they already gave it to me the day before, because sometimes we do repeat, right?
Right.
So and I know they gave it to me the night before, and then we go the next night. They go, "Can we get some white pepper?" Like, no, we don't have that. They don't even think about it. They go, "We don't have it." I'm like, "Okay, let me stop you there, hotshot. I know you do, because I had it yesterday here. We were on the same table even."
Right.
And then they go check and bring it back, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know we had that." I'm like, that's right. Gotta have white pepper.
Yep. That's a must.
What can I say? I'm a creature of habit.
Eddie's white pepper.
We'll post that recipe at some point.
Oh,
What else? What else we got here?
I
Anybody
don't see any more. I don't
questions?
see any more questions.
Nobody's asking any questions, but I'm still glad people are joining us and checking it out. Us ramble about whatever. You know.
We do pretty good at
Season
rambling.
2, episode 1.
I like to
We do
talk.
get pretty good at rambling. I know. You can talk. Unless it's like 9 p.m., 10 p.m., and you're like falling asleep and you're past your bedtime, you know?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm up
Wearing
early.
your PJs. Wearing your PJs. Yeah, you're a morning person. I'm not a morning person at all.
This is true.
You know? Rise and shine. You're like 6 a.m. We're like, hey, what are we doing? It's like, really, dude? I just went to bed 2 hours ago.
I know that's too much coffee. That's normally what that is.
Let's see if anybody's asking something. I know there was someone that asked something on Instagram that I wrote down here somewhere. No, I think we covered that because he was asking about using plugins versus what the console has to offer, and we already went over some of that. We talked about the tour a little bit, which was fun. We made some new friends. All the Ricky Martin camp were amazing.
Yes, they were.
Cesar, Eduardo, and everybody. Jorgito, like everybody, just awesome. So we had a blast hanging out with them, and you know, one thing we haven't done, and while we're doing these stream things, is bringing other people in. I think maybe it's time we try that too. I don't think people want to just hear us talk.
So you want an open relationship?
We want to open a relationship, yes. Yeah, I think we should. I think we should go there now.
Okay. It's been long enough, hasn't it?
It's been long enough.
We've been together long enough.
We've been together long enough. It's time for us to
spread our wings.
Yeah. And we'll just come up with a safe word. Yeah.
Speaking of that, Bruce Dan's like a safe word. Onion.
Yeah, onion.
Bruce wants to know how long we.
Go ahead.
Well, it's been what? Over 7 years.
Who asked that? Bruce?
Yeah, Bruce Dans.
How long have you two guys worked together? Okay.
So in September, I will have been here for 8 years. So
yeah,
it's 7 years and 7.5 years or so. Seems like an eternity.
Yeah, it seems like Jesus Christ.
Seems like a lifetime we've been together, but
I know.
It's a pretty good relationship.
Yeah, we get along pretty good. Right?
I think so.
When you're not mad at me or yelling at me on the talkback. But
well, that's only when you and your line checks. But other than that,
yeah,
that's when you rush
unnecessary line checks.
When you rush me during line check and I'm trying to accomplish something.
I'm like, Brad. And you're like, oh, I had my speaker down. Why do you have your speaker down? Brad, come on.
Because I'm tired of listening to you guys talk up there. And somebody doesn't turn their talkback mic off, and then I turn my speaker off because it's aggravating.
You're like, I had it. You're like, I'm done with it.
Then I forget to turn it back on. But
I know that happens. But line checks are necessary, Bradley.
That's all in good fun, though.
It is.
We have fun.
I don't know who I was talking about the other day. It was like, oh, I wish I could one day go listen to, just have a pack and listen. I was like, man.
But listen to us?
Just to hear just to listen to the show, but
to the banter.
The banter alone. I said that was just
right.
That alone could scare some people away. It's fun though. Having a little bit of banter moments.
It's all in good fun.
It's all in good fun. Everybody talking and We're in the middle
Yep.
of a show, but we're sorting things out. Nobody even knows. Show must go on, my friend.
Exactly.
We haven't used ClearCom in how long? Ever, right? With us?
I can never hear them. All I can hear is
That's right. But
that's all I ever hear.
Wow, that was a nice sound you just made.
You like that? A lot of times I can't even hear the squawk, the speaker though either.
Oh no, of course not. With everybody screaming and everything, it's like
Yeah. I think when when the show starts, it's like let's just go. Something
Yeah.
happens.
yeah. When I
figure-
try to talk to you, I usually wait till the song is over
Yeah.
because you're not going to hear it. But for the most part, there's no need for that, and for the most part, it goes well and smooth and
Yeah.
knock on wood, of course.
I think it's it makes for a better working environment when the monitor engineer and the front of house engineer get along and work well together.
Well,
You know?
I mostly tolerate you, but
Is that what it is?
know,
Okay.
pretty much, yeah. I mostly tolerate you, but I like you. You're definitely growing on me.
That's good. I'll remember that the next time you ask me to turn the PA back on during sound check.
Oh snap! I knew I was going to.
I'll be in catering.
Yeah, you'll be like, he's gone.
I'm
He's
good.
not here.
I'm done.
Anyway, well, I think we rambled for too long.
I think so. I
Is
think
there
we covered it
anything you
all.
want to add? I think we covered a few things for a first time back.
Yeah, I would just say if anybody has anything they want to ask us to maybe just make some comment.
Ask us.
Yeah.
Let us know. And if we didn't get to it today, we'll be happy to get to it next time.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be necessarily audio related. Like Lauren was
Right.
asking, what's her
Well,
favorite food?
Yeah. Well, here's a
You
friend of
found
mine asking, what is Eddie's background as far as life experiences? Musician, production.
Where's that question? I don't see it here.
You don't see it?
Or is that on your text?
It's in the comments.
See it.
Okay. Well,
And if
it's
I don't
there.
see it, I don't answer to it. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
So what is my background? I come from
Peru.
from Peru. Don't say it so dramatically. From Peru. Family of musicians. My dad, musician. Everybody on my dad's side, like my grandma, everybody in music. My cousins, my brother is a producer, songwriter, drummer. My other brother is a bass player, guitar player. Like this, it just runs in the family everywhere. So I've been very blessed to be able to have access to all these amazing people around me and have access to growing up, access to equipment and mess around with it and mix and learn. And so, yeah, that's my background. So I grew up in Peru, like Bradley Dean said, and living the dream, because this is exactly what I wanted to do growing up. So that's kind of cool. I'm very lucky that way.
Yes, we are.
What about you, Bradley Dean? Let's flip the question to you now.
My background?
Yeah, like what's your
Musician.
Yeah.
Is where I started when I was, I don't know, 10 or 12. Started playing guitar, and then I heard Aerosmith and AC/DC and wanted to be a rock star. And I saw those pictures in Circus Magazine, and I hung all those posters all over my bedroom wall. And I said, I want to be Joe Perry, and I want to be Steven Tyler, and I want to be Angus, maybe a little Bon Scott.
Circus Magazine? Wow.
Circus Magazine, Hit Parader Magazine.
Hit Parader, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to be a rock star and play music. And then
You're still a rock star, dude. In my book, you're still a rock star.
Oh, well, thank you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep. That's my background, musician, before I was a
cool.
mixer.
Well, see, I was in a band with my brother and my cousin, and I played keyboards and percussion, but I was never awesome at it. I was decent, barely, like just enough to complement whatever they were doing. And I had fun. It was cool being in a band, but my heart and my everything, my mind was always in mixing. So eventually I stopped being a musician per se. And I never really called myself a musician because I never thought I was that good. So, but I always wanted to mix and do what I do now. So
I
that's
never
pretty
had
cool.
any plan to mix ever, you know. But I was smart enough to sit around the studio and watch the engineer or the producer, and and then when we played shows, we didn't always have our own front of house guy, but I would always walk out front and listen, and sometimes it was good and sometimes it was not so good, and I would just get in there and start turning knobs, trying to figure out how to make things sound better. So maybe I just always had a knack for knowing what I wanted to hear, which is why I ended up gravitating from being a musician over to being a mixer. The musician thing didn't quite pan out. Yeah, I made records and we did tours and, but it didn't blossom into me being a rock star. So, but I still enjoy doing what I do. And to me, it's every bit as much fun and enjoyable as being on stage. Because it's creative.
Yes, it's creative. But one thing I'm going to say, not to be a brown noser or anything, but when I hear you mixes, they sound very musical, and you're not just a set and forget a guy either. Neither am I. But meaning, when you're mixing, you're like, it's like that's your instrument at the time. Like you're mixing, like if this was you're another member of the artist of the band or whatever. So I think that's important to emphasize too for whoever's watching that they think that mixing can only be one way or technical or musical. I think having that musical, even if you just like music and you don't come from playing music, having an understanding of how music should flow, I think is very beneficial for anybody. And if you're a musician, I think it's even a plus,
Yeah, exactly. Because I obviously didn't know the technical end before, just knowing what I wanted to hear. I had to learn the technical stuff as I went along. But having played in bands for so long, I just knew what I wanted things to sound like. And it didn't matter if it was Cyndi Lauper or Enrique or Linkin Park or whatever, just music. Yeah. And I want to hear everybody playing that's on stage and bring the faders up and listen to the song and mix the show.
Yeah. I agree with that.
So you are.
Here's another question here. Any suggestions for getting fully mic'd up drums, bass, guitars with amps and vocals in a small room to work and on the budget?
Well, by small room, do you mean a small room, like as in a small club to play for an audience?
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Is this for live or to record it? Well, let's just give them both scenarios, I guess, in case, look, if you're in a small room, on the recording side, I guess, you're going to get bleed no matter what. Things are going to bleed through, drums are going to bleed through the drum mic, through the guitar mics and so forth, and the vocal mics. So you just have to position yourself where whatever you're trying to get away from, like have the singer facing opposite the drummer, so you get that cancellation of that.
Oh, he's saying to record in a living room.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that would be the thing there. That would be the trick. Isolate
try to be opposite.
As you can.
Isolate as much as you can, but you're going to get bleed. You just got to make it work to your advantage.
Yeah. And obviously you can never, drums are going to be as loud as they are. You can't turn the drums down, but you can put something around the drums to help
soften them. Yeah.
Or you could, have the guitar players turn down as much as possible if they can monitor in headphones or something to where it doesn't have to be on stun.
Yep. Put some kind of blankets or whatever over the amps and whatever
over the amps.
Whatever you can do to isolate it. Put the mics, the guitar mics right on the grill as much as you can, so you get less bleed from the drums. At that point, you don't have enough. You don't have the luxury of getting depth per se, as far as positioning a guitar mic a foot away, or you don't have that luxury. At that point, you're trying to isolate as much as you can. And if you still want to capture the room, I will capture as a whole. Put a couple room mics in the whole thing that you can put into your whole mix and make it sound like if it's in a natural, organic room, because you're going to have all this isolated, close miking thing. So
You get a lot of drums in the ambient miking as well
Yeah, you will.
in the
But at
small
least-
room.
But at least it might allow you to separate them, or at least give it a little bit of, some kind of ambient compared to all the direct mics, right?
And you could try to stick with, mics with, narrower patterns like a, super dynamic or super cardioid. And
Cardioid. Yeah.
maybe stay away from condenser mics so much,
Yeah.
at least on
SM7s
guitars.
everywhere.
Yeah.
SM7s,
57s.
yeah.
57s work.
Yeah. Yeah, try to isolate as much as possible, and definitely position yourself where the back of the mics are facing the stuff you're trying to isolate from as much as you can.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it sounds, those things are challenging, but they're doable. And if you if the end result is supposed to sound like you're in a small room, don't stress about getting all that bleed. It's gonna sound like you're in a room anyways. Just make the best of it. And if you're actually happy to be videotaping that, perfect, because it's gonna sound the way it looks. It can't
True.
sound all dry and direct if you're in this room where everything's kind of bleeding through. So it's a great question. It's a tough thing to do, but it's absolutely doable. And as far as budget, like he was asking, 57s, it doesn't have to be, but keep it all. Or if you're able to get any, super cardioid mics or whatever, but otherwise just, nothing large, no large condensers, right? Basically.
Yep.
Let's see, Luis Diaz. What's up, Luis? What's your favorite rock movie? Foo Fighters has one coming out. I saw that too. I'm actually excited about seeing that. I wonder if it's like that Kiss movie that they did years ago.
Kiss meets the Phantom.
I know.
That was amazing.
That was whoo.
Oh,
How many Oscars did they get for that?
I don't know.
What other rock movie? Do you know what's your favorite rock movie?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, I can think of a couple, that I've seen that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed Sound City.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was really good. I mean, Song Remains the Same by Led Zeppelin. That's great.
Yeah.
Pink Floyd, The Wall is great.
There you go. If anything, that will be a good one.
I'm sure.
I like music documentaries. I like the making of. I'm really into that stuff, like the making of Pump or the making of the Black Album. I don't know, stuff like that. I was always intrigued growing up watching them do that stuff.
Yeah. The Leonard Skinner documentary was good. There's a lot of good documentaries.
Yeah. I can't think of another rock movie like, The Wall, but in the Kiss movie.
That's funny.
Oh, I guess Luis is saying Spinal Tap. Yeah, I guess Spinal Tap would qualify.
Yep. Yeah.
That's a classic comedy, though.
Bad News as well. Bad News is a good one.
Which one's that one?
Bad News is the actors were in The Young Ones.
Oh.
And it's actually an English spoof. It's awesome. Bad News.
Did you see what Howard wrote? Did you see what he goes?
Yep.
The singer is the drummer.
Oh boy. Well, all I can say is good luck there.
Yeah, good luck.
Lopez is your friend then.
Yeah, Lopez for sure.
At about 1K. I don't know. But yeah, blankets are good. And yeah, 50
yeah, blankets are good. Right on. Well, Bradley Dean, I think we covered a few things. We can leave some for the rest.
We're just getting back in the swing. We're kind of getting back in the groove.
We're rusty. Can't deny it. We're a little rusty, but send us messages or whatever. If anything you want us to discuss in particular, we'll be happy to do it.
Maybe next time we could show some setups, pictures of our setups from the tour.
Yeah.
Front of house and monitors and some PA pics.
That'd be cool. I thought I asked for those for this one. Didn't I ask for those for this one? Hot Shot?
I was too busy.
You were busy.
I was busy.
Watching the Kiss movie.
I was busy in my PJs and slippers.
Right. So
I mean, that could be cool.
yeah, of
Show some
course.
pics, vids, whatever we got, videos.
Yeah, we'll do all of that.
Oh, by the
Uh,
way, I meant to say I like your choice of plugins in your screen there.
Fuck
That's
yeah.
That's a fine selection.
Plugin Alliance, Brainworks.
Yep.
They're awesome. I love it.
And with the new piece of gear that Yamaha just put out, the VST box, you'll be able to use that stuff.
That's gonna be awesome, dude.
With the Yamaha console.
I wish. See, that's and
or
I think
any
we've
Dante
covered this.
console.
Yeah, I know, and I know we cover that.
We did.
So, as far as having a platform that you can do everything, and I think Pooch and Rabel will discuss something like that, something that he's working on with someone that you can use everything natively, and they're working on it. It's a work in progress, but that's how it should be. Us as the user should not be held back by anything. We should be able to use everything we want on any console. So hopefully manufacturers that are watching and listening, you'll understand that that's kind of what we need and want. So they'll eventually do something like that where we can do any of our choice of processing with anything, without going through too many hoops. Yes, you can do it now, but it goes through many, many hoops.
Yep.
So just want to say thank you to Jeff Subaru for letting us use his music at the beginning of the show, and thank you everybody for joining us today. Hopefully we'll do another one real soon. We won't wait another year and a half for it. We're gonna actually do one soon. We promise. And
we should do one in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
What else do we have to do?
No pressure. No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure. But when we finish this, there's gonna be a song playing where Bradley Dean is singing and playing bass. When you used to be in a band called Souls at Zero, right?
Souls at Zero. Yeah, the demos were made in 1996.
Jesus.
I know, right?
I was 5.
No, you weren't.
But it's a killer song, and I hope you guys enjoy it. We want to thank you guys for watching.
Yeah, thank you.
Signing out. Thank you guys. Bradley Dean, I love you. We'll see you soon.
Love you too, buddy.
And adios. Bye-bye.
Adios.
And set the clock in motion. I don't know why you can be sorry that your problem. Why taste the pain? Let it go. Show me some emotion. Now I see your world coming down. I know what you need. Turns to night, turns to day. A beautiful existence, spare me your breath. Take a walk inside yourself. Now one way night turns to day, turns to night. I'm sorry to have failed you. How do you feel in the end? Show me some emotion. I know the pain. Sorry, that's your problem.